Would you all rise for the pledge and a moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Howard, would you please do roll call?
Absolutely. Mr. Clare.
Here.
Dr. Frick.
Here.
Mr. Linder.
Here.
Mr. Yazway.
Here.
Mr. McGann.
Here.
Mr. Need.
Here.
Mrs. Ritter.
Here.
Mr. Bushy.
Here.
Mrs. Williams.
Here.
All 9 members present.
Okay, thank you. I also want to announce that this meeting is open to the public and is also being streamed virtually. There was an executive session held on November 1st, 2021 to discuss personnel matters. There was also another executive session held on November 15th prior to this meeting to discuss personnel and real estate matters. Okay, before we look at the minutes, would everybody please look at A for the approval of board minutes? We need to make a change on 11B. 11B. On 11B, we just need to add pending solicitor approval. We would add that. Pending solicitor approval. And with that change, I need a motion for the approval of the November 15th, 2021 school board meeting agenda.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. I need an approval of the October 25th school board meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. And we're going to move on. We don't have a superintendent's report this evening, but we do have Dr. Hatton in attendance on Zoom this evening. So if he wants to chime in at some time, he will. I'll get that. Recognition of visitors and public comments. I want to encourage all citizens of the district to come before the board to present their petitions, inquiries, and other communications of interest. The board invites the public comment on any topic that is within the board's jurisdiction. Personnel and or student discipline issues are inappropriate topics for public comment and should not be addressed to the Board of Education. Please make any appointment with the superintendent to discuss these issues. Okay, we also will limit any discussion to 3 minutes, and we'll give you a heads up when your time is coming close. Looking at information that we have, I believe we only have one person, Jennifer Walker. Jennifer, would you like to speak? Sure.
Hi, thank you for the time. I saw on the agenda that the health and safety plan would be brought up today for discussion. So I just have a few comments that I would like to share before you deliberate on that or discuss anything. So I have, over the last few months, both emailed and brought up some concerns and questions I have Last week, the Commonwealth Court ruled that the mask mandate was void after 2 lawsuits against the acting Secretary of Health, Beam, was sued. So after, just like as the school board has a solicitor, the community has reached out and discussed with attorneys and things like that as well, different viewpoints on this legal aspect. And so these are some thoughts from these attorneys. So on 11/10, the Commonwealth Court ruled 4-1 that the mask mandate issued on 9/1 was void ab initio, which means invalid from the beginning. It was never legal to begin with. Furthermore, it was unenforceable. There's a quote that directly states that the Commonwealth Court came back with the fact that this mandate does not provide the acting secretary with the blanket authority to create new rules and regulations, which she had done. That just furthermore solidifies what we have been saying for months, was that she did not have this authority, and we had urged you to get other legal advice other than just our solicitor. This is extremely frustrating to the community because many of us have been continuously begging you to get other opinions instead of just blindly following this mandate. Because of this decision, many families and children have been negatively impacted by this. We are asking that you consider other legal advice other than just the school solicitor. We would not like to see our children bullied, given detentions, sat in a classroom by themselves, eating lunch by themselves for not wearing a mask, especially now that it is ruled that it was never valid to begin with. So again, I encourage you to ask your solicitors if you had discussed what the problems were with this order. Why was it never discussed if it wasn't discussed with the solicitor? And then furthermore, the district had made it even more difficult for people to get a mask exemption by
30 seconds.
By requiring a 504, which is just a lot more than the mandate itself either said. Anyway, all that to say, I'll skip down to my conclusion. So in conclusion, we need to get back to the great teaching that goes on in Manheim Central. We need to continue focusing on an environment that promotes that. If we look at a decision making masks mandatory again, we need to look at the actual data for the last 2 weeks. Our students and staff are safe. As of today, there are 3 active cases in the entire district. The 14-day count has ranged quite similarly. That would be less than 0.001% of the district has been infected with COVID recently, getting nowhere near even 1% of the case. I urge you to take all that I've mentioned and blah, blah, blah. Last week, my son smiled saying, I finally get to see my classmates' faces for the first time, which is tragic in and of itself. And I just encourage you to really consider all aspects of this before you would consider mandating masks again. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's the only person that signed up. Is there anybody else that would like to speak before we go on? Okay. As I said, Dr. Hatton is here. He's zooming in this evening, but he doesn't have a report because this is his first day on the job. So we're moving on to Dr. Flannery's Assistant Superintendent's report.
Good evening. The only item I have this evening is to bring up the discussion of the health and safety plan. As was just recapped a moment ago, on November 10th, there was some change in the legislature, which resulted in the district moving back to the health and safety plan that was approved in the July-August timeframe of this past year, being mask optional. I know we had some questions from the community, various people regarding some of the timeline and what that meant. And I asked our solicitor to just give a little brief update today in terms of where things stand currently.
Thank you, Dr. Flannery. Just to bring the public up to speed on exactly what's been happening legally if you're not following along with the court filings. As the citizen spoke of earlier today, 11/10 is when the Commonwealth Court issued their opinion, finding the masking order void at its initiation. Because the government was a litigant in that lawsuit, so it was Corman versus the Department of Health. The government is entitled to an automatic stay or supersedious under the rules of appellate procedure. So as soon as that decision was issued, it was followed quickly by a stay that maintained the initial masking order in place. I believe it was Friday afternoon. The plaintiffs, which is those representing Corman et al., filed an application to lift that stay. They acknowledged publicly in a variety of different statements that a stay was in place, a stay meaning that the authority of the court's original order was sort of paused for a moment. They acknowledged that that stay was in place, and they also acknowledged that they intended to have it lifted. The Commonwealth Court is the court that will hear the arguments relative to whether the stay should be issued. So the same court that issued the order indicating that the masking order was void will be the same court that determines whether a stay should be lifted and that their decision can be implemented. That decision resulted in the Department of Health filing an answer to that application for stay. I believe that was filed this afternoon around 3 or 4 o'clock, presenting the Department of Health's arguments about why we should maintain a stay. It's expected that the Commonwealth Court will probably issue a ruling sometime this week. Their history and patterns demonstrate that they usually review cases pretty rapidly. It's their own supersedious and stay that's in place, and it's they who determine whether it's to be lifted. So I would expect something to be filed or issued later in the week. You can also expect as a public that the Department of Health acting secretary will likely also file an appeal. So if the Commonwealth Court lifts that stay, lifts that supersedious, and that would mean that their decision is legally effective, you can fully expect the Department of Health to file an appeal about that decision, so a second appeal, with the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. The Department of Health has already filed an appeal about the Commonwealth Court's original decision. This would be a second appeal on the issue of the stay. And then it would probably be a matter of a few weeks before the Supreme Court heard that issue. So as Dr. Flannery introduced, the state of the law with respect to the masking order is in a constant state of flux. It may in fact change day to day, but it is correct that the administration announced that the school district is reverting to its health and safety plan during the pendency of this appellate process. Dr. Flannery, did I miss any important parts in that description?
No, that pretty much covers it. We did consult with our solicitors multiple times during this process to be able to figure out what the best course of action was. And as you know, we had moved forward going back to our health and safety plan, which is what is in effect at this point in time. So I know there was some discussion that wanted to occur from the board, and I wanted to be able to give some time for that.
Your report, Dr. Flannery.
Yes, that concludes my report. I was going to open it for discussion.
Okay. All right. We can move on to personnel.
Thank you.
We have some discussion. Okay. Let's move on to personnel. I need a motion to put A through F together.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. I need a motion to put G through K together.
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. I need a motion for L, the approval of the closure memorandum for understanding with the Mannheim Central Education Association.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. I need a motion for the approval of the detention memorandum of understanding with the Mannheim Central Education Association.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. N, I need the approval of the Special Education Access Memorandum of Understanding with the Manheim Central Education Association.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Oh, the approval of the office hours memorandum of understanding with the Manheim Central Education Association.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, let's move on to treasurer's report. Mr. McGeehan.
I'll make a motion that we approve item A, financial statements and budget transfers for October 21. Item B, approval of the monthly invoices for October 21. And item C, approval of the high school renovation invoices for the month.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
I do
Hearing
have
none.
one question.
Yep, go ahead. Sorry.
On the debt service fund, are we going to get an amortization schedule as to how that's going to move over to the general fund to help pay that debt service down over the years?
I'm not quite sure I understand. You mean the debt service fund balance?
Yeah, are we going to, how are we going to move that money into the general fund to offset tax increases to pay down our debt? Or are we just going to let it sit there?
No, we're not going to let it sit there. We're going to wait till we have the bonds issued, and then we're going to look at a amortization of those bonds and then how we can best use those funds towards those payments. So we'll have a plan, a debt service plan that we'll release and talk about probably during budget time.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Okay, I think we already said all those in favor. And all those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay. Business ops, Mr. Need.
No meeting this month, next date to be determined.
Okay, thank you. Academic committee, Dr. Frick.
Yes, next meeting will be December 2nd at 6 p.m. at the district office. And that ends the report.
Okay, thank you. Activities committee, Mr. Claire.
We have not had any meetings. That is my report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Claire. All right, let's move on to general action items. I need a motion for the approval to reverse all previous fund balance assignments and commitments and to approve fund balance commitments.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Hallett, would you be willing to take a shot at explaining that to someone like myself who's
Yeah, absolutely. So the fund balance that sits within our general fund, we are required to assign or commit those funds to specific purposes, or we would need to transfer them out of the fund. We prefer to keep them in the general fund to assign or commit them. That way they're more flexible to be used towards operations if there would be an emergency. So each year, we need to make a designation as to how much funds we commit and for what purpose. And earlier in the year, by June 30, if you'll recall, we took a motion to make an intent to assign or commit funds. This is the actual amount after the auditors come through and say, hey, here's your fund balance. Then we go through and we say, here's the amount we want to set aside or commit for capital projects in the future, whether that be to offset the high school project or for an athletic field project or some other renovation or at the middle school or something. And the other amount is to offset future debt service. So as Mr. McGeehan, you brought up, we have that amount there. We are incurring extra debt for these projects. We think it's prudent to set aside and commit those funds to use towards that debt service to ease the tax burden in the future. And then for PSERS while it's going up, it's not the sharp incline that it once had been, but there's still some uncertainty there, especially with, I'm sure you're following some of the legal issues that they've had statewide. So there's still some uncertainty there. So we feel that it's still appropriate to have at least $1 million put there to stabilize that should there be some kind of a spike in the rate. But these are general funds, basically over the years, surpluses that we put to fund balance for the purpose of basically smoothing out future costs and thereby, being able to smooth out our budget in future years.
Thank you, Mr. Howard.
Any other questions or discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Let's move down to B, the approval of the agreement with Johnson, Meerman, and Thompson Architects for the proposed athletic field improvement pending solicitor approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
We have two.
Motion for 7-10.
Motion carries. Okay, C, the approval of district volunteers for the 2021-2022 school year.
No move.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. I really couldn't hear what you were saying. Mhm. Right. Gotcha. Mr.
I
Howard?
do believe some of those, this actual, I'm sorry. There we go. First time. Are we good now?
Yeah, you're good.
All right. This will be posted in the public section of the board docs. So if you go on the board docs on the website, you'll be able to pull this agreement down. The other place is we will be posting the option, the current option that the athletic group and the administration and the committee has kind of zeroed in on. We'll post that up under our facilities department, close to where the high school renovation information is. We'll go ahead and put a whole site there, proposed athletic plans. Give us a day or two and you'll be able to pull that down and kind of look at what we have in mind there. It's just important to point out that we're not committed to a project at all with this. This is simply design. It's stuff like topographical studies, geotech studies, stormwater runoff studies that go along with that, the design, until this would go to bid. And then the board would act on that bid, then they would be committed to a project. But prior to that, there's no commitment to a project. But there is a proposed idea that the athletic group and administration has put out there. So we'll definitely post that.
Yeah, they're not required to do that, but
Yeah, I most certainly will. I think we have the high school project going on right now. We have the high school project going on right now also.
yeah.
Sorry, it's not working. I'll talk as loud as I can. We're in the process of the high school renovation right now. The cost of the architectural project, just for that alone, is a significant cost. I think right now we have a bunch of other things going on. I don't know if we're gonna have it in the budget to do those. I would prefer to look at maybe a smaller project and go down that path. I think it needs to go back to the committee, look at some other options, and then look at coming back. It's a significant cost to have the architectural study done in itself. So that's my reason.
Brian, just a point to this was discussed at a facilities committee, which is open meeting as well, correct?
Right. And I do just want to emphasize that this isn't a final project. We could add or detract from it at any time. We're just doing a study on it right now. So, if that helps. Okay. C, the approval of district volunteers for the 2021-2022 school year.
So moved again.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. D, second reading and approval of Manheim Central School District Policies 200 and 226.1 as read on October 25th, 2021.
So moved.
Oh, I'm sorry, 236.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, let's go down to board representative reports. Mrs. Ritter, Lancaster, Lebanon, IU13.
I don't know if this is on. Okay. I'm proud to say that the IU13 has been awarded the best workplace in the county. Their survey was on culture, ethics, leadership, pay, and benefits. And as we know, we've lost a couple of our own staff over to them because they're in such a fantastic place to be. Kudos to Dr. Barnhart and his team there. That's all I have.
Is that it? Okay, thank you very much. Lancaster County CTC, Mr. Bushy.
We have a meeting at the end of the month, so I have nothing to report now.
Okay, thank you. PSBA Legislative, Mr. Claire.
As the last several months, we could be here all night long trying to discuss the 2, 3, 4, and 5 time back and forth we get from PSBA of the legislative. So we all get it. And I just encourage you to read what they're saying. That will change tomorrow, but at least that'll keep you going. If
Okay.
anything important would come up, I'll bring it to you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Claire. Mr. Claire again, Lancaster County Academy.
Lancaster County Academy is doing quite well at both locations. We are picked up another school. Manheim has 15 slots, and all 15 slots are accounted for. And the students at Manheim can go to either one of our the branches. It's a tremendous thing. We're looking at quite a few Manheim Central students getting their graduation projects done by June. That pretty much ends the report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Claire. You have the enrollment numbers there for you to take a look at. I hope everybody looked at them before the meeting. Pardon me? They are, I believe they're public. I'm not.
Let me check that. They should be public.
They should be. If they're not, we will make sure they are.
They're not right now.
Okay. Mr. Howard's going to move them over, so you should be able to go online. Okay. All right. Upcoming school board meetings. There will be a school board reorganizational meeting on December 1st, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. at the Manheim Central Middle School Auditorium. And the next regularly scheduled board meeting will be held on December 13th, 2021 at 7 p.m. at the Manheim Central Middle School. And board comments. Anybody have anything for the good of the order here? Hearing none.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes, yes.
Yes, may I indulge and say something here, please? I know I'm not a board member, but I would like to, can I make a comment here?
Sure, go ahead.
Yes, I just want to let everyone know I'm very excited to be back in Manheim as the acting superintendent until the next superintendent's in place. And I'm just looking forward to once again working alongside the staff and the administration, the school board and the community on behalf of our students. I'm excited for this opportunity and I want to thank you for providing that opportunity to me.
Thank you, Dr. Hatton. We're anxiously awaiting your arrival.
Soon.
Okay. I need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thanks, everybody.